Over the past 168 hours, I've rewatched every single episode of the Amazing World of Gumball, all to find the answer to one question. How much money does Larry Needlemeyer actually make? Larry is a living rock man who debuted all the way back in the first episode of the show that was aired in the US, titled The DVD, and ever since has oddly become a staple of the series. In that episode, he's nothing but a humble DVD store clerk, but as we go through the series, viewers may start to realize he's got a lot more jobs under his belt than you'd ever expect. He's integral to the heart of Elmore and can be found at nearly every store in town, working his tail off to earn that glorious minimum wage paycheck. So with all these jobs, one's gotta ask, how much money does Larry Needlemeyer make? And how does he do it? Today, we're finding the answers to those questions. Stick around, this is gonna be a fun one. Now, before we figure out just how much money good old Larry makes, we first gotta piece together just how many jobs Larry has, which believe me is harder than you could ever imagine. The Amazing World of Gumball currently has 6 seasons under its belt and a total of 240 episodes that I had to scour through, bit by bit, desperately searching for our blue-collared boulder. But thankfully, I compiled a definitive list of each and every single job Mr. Needlemeyer has. But before we hop into the list, I think it's worth noting that we technically have heard just how many jobs this guy has had from his own mouth. In the episode The Menu, when having his employment threatened by the Wattersons, Larry utters that if he loses his gig at Joyful Burger, he'll only have 37 others. Sounds pretty concrete and all, but I'm gonna tell you right here and right now that Larry is straight up lying. You'll see what I mean. Oh, and if lying about how many jobs he has isn't enough, he also lies about how much he's paid. I know if I don't talk about this, a lot of fans will lambast me in the comments, so here, let me say this now. In the episode The Schooling, Larry says each of his jobs pays a mere $7 an hour. However, in the episode The Menu, we can clearly see that Larry's paycheck for a week of work at Joyful Burger earned him $480, with him working a total of 48 hours. That clearly means that for that job, he makes $10 an hour. So, which is it, Larry? Clearly this guy is hiding something. And by the end of this video, I think you'll all be surprised to see just how deep this rabbit hole goes. So, without further ado, here's the list. Also, side note, we start off pretty normal, but his jobs escalate quickly, so you probably will want to hear this whole thing. Season 1, Episode 1, The DVD. Larry is shown to be a clerk at the DVD store Laser Video. Season 1, Episode 5. Larry is shown to work as a cashier at the grocery store Food and Stuff. Season 1, Episode 8, The Spoon. Larry works at a local gas station. Season 1, Episode 12, The Ghost. Larry is shown working at Joyful Burger, the McDonald's of Elmore. Sorry about Carrie, by the way, dude.
Feel like helping me eat the sandwich?
Season 1, Episode 14, The Prank. Larry is shown working at a shoe store. Season 1, Episode 18, The Refund. Larry is shown to be a clerk at a video game store called Ripley 2000, complete with a grumpy old boss and a no refund policy. Kinda like game stores in real life, huh? Season 2, Episode 6, The Job. Larry is shown to be a manager, at least assistant manager, at a pizza place as he fires Richard Watterson from the job himself. Season 2, Episode 17, Christmas. Larry works as a mall Santa at the Elmore shopping mall. Season 2, Episode 40, The Finale. Larry works as a clerk at another convenience store called Chunky Bite. Season 3, Episode 15, The Law. Larry is shown to be an ice cream truck driver. Season 3, Episode 25, The Pizza. Larry is shown to be a mechanic, an employee at a mall version of Joyful Burger, a police accountant.
Larry also worked as the police force accountant.
And the head of Elmore Pest Control. Wow.
This is that Larry was in charge of pest control.
Season 3, Episode 31, The Oracle. Larry works as a cashier for a clothing store in the Elmore Mall. Season 3, Episode 34, The Spoiler. Larry is shown to work at a movie theater.
Movie piracy is a federal offense.
I'm kidding.
Season 3, Episode 36, The Nobody. Larry works at a hot dog stand. Season 3, Episode 38, The Return. Larry manages a play center at the mall. Season 3, Episode 40, The Money. Larry appears as an actor in a Joyful Burger commercial and is also oddly in charge of creating the ad for Joyful Burger, something usually a corporate head of an organization could do. So maybe he's got a minor executive head at a fast food company? I'll jot it down as a maybe for now. Season 4, Episode 6, The Check. Larry works at the Bank of Elmore. Season 4, Episode 9, The Gift. Larry owns his own messenger service, complete with a stupid van. Season 4, Episode 14, Larry works as a server at a diner inside the mall. Season 4, Episode 19 and 20, The Origins. Larry works at the pet store. Season 4, Episode 25, The Parasite. Larry can be heard over the phone as an operator for the police.
Hello, 911. Hello?
Season 5, Episode 10, The Loophole. Larry works at a quinoa stand. Season 5, Episode 21, The Cycle. Larry works at a car dealership. Season 5, Episode 22, The Stars. Larry works as a barber, works at and probably owns Chef Larry, which is a 5-star restaurant, and works at the Elmore Zoo. Season 5, Episode 32, The Worst. Larry works as a fishmonger at the grocery store. Season 6, Episode 4, The Vegging. Larry works for a food delivery service, likely something similar to Uber Eats. Season 6, Episode 18, The Schooling. Through Gumball and Darwin, we see Larry works as customer service at a mall, a mailman, an engineer, and a surgeon. Or at least a nurse. We'll say nurse. Season 6, Episode 26, The Stink. Finally, we see Larry works at an eco-friendly grocery store called Organic and Stuff, and a tea store called Tea and Stuff. So, yes, we can see that Larry Needlemeyer has, at a minimum, 36 different jobs. Which, yeah, is actually really close to that number he said earlier. But as you'll see, that number is actually nowhere near accurate. But before we continue, I think we all may be wondering, how the hell is Larry doing this? How does one man hold down this many jobs all at once? I mean, in one episode, we literally see the collapse of Elmore both socially and economically, all because Larry quits working.
Because I can't take it anymore. Try our family deals for $5.
That is a whole lot of responsibility to be all on one guy's shoulders, so one has to wonder, how does he handle it? And is it possible to learn this power? All right, so I have a couple of theories, the first of which being tied to time travel. This is gonna get weird. Why am I going this in depth for Larry? So my basic idea for this one is that Larry is time traveling. Think of how Hermione used the time turner in Harry Potter to take all of those classes at once. Basically, Larry is appearing at multiple points in time and possibly via time travel, which could kind of explain how he manages to appear at a bunch of different job locations all in the same day. For example, in the episode The Pizza, Larry gets yelled at by each of the Wattersons throughout the course of a single day, all while doing different jobs. Kinda crazy how he manages to do that, right? Well, maybe it isn't that crazy. Just gear up for a bit of space-time discussion here. So Larry could be using what is known as a Tipler cylinder, a long, dense cylinder with a mass 10 times larger than the sun. Totally realistic, I know. Now, to time travel using this cylinder, you'd have to make it spin fast. No, faster than you're thinking right now. No, even faster. Larry would have to make this thing spin a few billion revolutions per minute, maybe 5 billion revolutions per minute, or around 83 million revolutions a second. Sounds kind of impossible, but to the contrary, scientists at Purdue University were able to make the fastest rotating object ever, going at a whopping 300 billion times per second. One problem. It was a tiny silicon dioxide ball, so not exactly our giant cylinder. Keep in mind, the larger our object, the more speed we'd need. Oh, and as if this whole theory wasn't taxing enough, Larry, once achieving a desired rotation, would need to hop into a goddamn spaceship and get itself on a closed time-like curve and then travel into the past. And yeah, a closed time-like curve is a loop in space-time. Christ. But, one big problem here. I've never seen Larry with a spaceship or a giant sun-sized cylinder. In fact, I don't think I know of any resident of Elmore who has a giant space cylinder in their possession. So I'm probably gonna rule this one out. But hey, who knows? Maybe this guy is hiding something from all of us. We already know he likes to hide his paycheck amount from people. What else does this man have going on under our noses? Theory 2.
Here we go again.
For my second and frankly more likely theory, we're gonna have to talk about quantum mechanics. Yep, Larry is bending the laws of physics, folks, and we're gonna talk about it right here and right now. Buckle up, people, time for a crash course. Don't worry, we're gonna keep things easy to understand, but do try and keep up. You don't want to offend Larry, do you? So, quantum mechanics is the science used to describe the behavior of matter and energy at the scales of atoms and subatomic particles. Just think of it as when classical physics fails. Now, within quantum mechanics, we can see that tiny particles, like electrons and photons, like particles and such, behave as both particles and waves. This is known as wave-particle duality. Who'd have guessed that'd be the name, huh? With that in mind, it can be said that quantum particles can have their behavior described by a wave function. A wave function is an important concept in quantum physics, basically describing the relative probability of finding a given elementary particle within a specified volume of space. But since it is a possibility, you can get different results every time you measure. Have I lost you yet? Don't worry, things will make sense as we go along. Thanks to modern research, we know that every object, whether it be yourself, a car, an elephant, or whatever else, has got a wavelength associated with it, known as the de Broglie wavelength. Now, that's a lot to take in, but the main point is, we've all got something within us that connects us back to theories of quantum mechanics. So, if this is the case, why is it that we never see any quantum effects in our everyday lives? Well, to put it simply, the wavelengths are too small to observe anything. See, if an object or particle is larger than its de Broglie wavelength, then the wave-like properties it has are completely unnoticeable. As well as that, if a particle is interacting with other objects larger than its de Broglie wavelength, the wave-like properties are, again, not noticeable. So let's put it this way. Here's Larry's car, weighing 1,000 kilograms, or about 2,200 pounds for the Americans out there, traveling at 30 meters a second, or 68 miles per hour. Despite its hefty size and shockingly fast speed, that car is going to remain unaffected by quantum mechanics. That's because the moving car will have a de Broglie wavelength of 2 times 10 to the negative 38th meter, which is smaller than both the de Broglie wavelength of the car itself and even an atomic nuclei, which, you know, is a wee bit unstable. Even when Larry drives it off of a cliff and has it plummet into a fire explosion, you guessed it, still no quantum mumbo-jumbo going on. Oh, and a little bit of extra info. If two objects travel at the same speed, the particle with a larger mass will have a smaller de Broglie wavelength than the lighter object. So, now that I have your head swirling, let me explain to you why I just launched all that info at you. My first theory is that Larry can be in multiple places at once. How is a simple origami Rockefeller doing this? Quantum superposition, that's how. Before I continue, I think we need a break. Take a deep breath, clear your head. Look, here's a kitten to ease your thoughts. All good? Okay, now let me So, in quantum mechanics, there's a concept known as quantum superposition. It's a concept related to waves, and as we just discussed, objects, including everyone's favorite everything attendant, can be waves. In quantum mechanics, superposition means that there can be more than one possible outcome of a measurement. Remember how I said probability can mean you'll get different measurements every time earlier? Yep, welcome to theoretical number hell. A particle can be here, there, anywhere, and have the velocity of x, y, or z. And with that in mind, in a sense, it's almost as though that particle is in all of these places at once. We're getting kind of fun here, I know.
Brother, this guy's still.
But even still, this info doesn't mean a particle is actually divided between all of these places and multiple replicas of itself. It's more so just the probability of finding the particle in all of these places. But even still, again, that doesn't mean that the differing non-existing copies of the particle can't affect each other. Quite the opposite, actually, they totally can. The different waves can interfere with each other and frequently affect an observed outcome. Yeah, this stuff is weird. Oh, and you know what's cool about quantum superposition? It's been observed in larger particles, not just smaller ones. For example, back in 2019, a group of international researchers came together and caused a molecule made up of 2,000 atoms to occupy 2 places at the same time. Now, the only problem here is that the molecule was incredibly light, being almost half of a hemoglobin molecule. For context, hemoglobin is the protein inside of you that carries oxygen to your red blood cells. And as well as that, like I said earlier, larger objects have smaller wavelengths, so the ability to perceive any of these interference patterns is going to be really low. So, Larry would have to become a master in this field in order to do all of this. He'd have to have really kicked his butt into high gear, put on his hard hat, and got into some tedious trial and error work to refine experiments. All of which would make him outclass the smartest minds the world has to offer today. Pretty tough for a guy who said he dropped out of school. But okay, let's give Larry the benefit of the doubt and say he's done it. He's harnessed the powers of quantum superpositioning. Well, there's a major flaw in his skill. There's this idea that goes along with quantum superpositioning that assumes that the wave function itself would collapse. What does this mean? Well, let me put it this way.
Not again.
In quantum mechanics, physical systems don't have definite properties before being measured. To this point, everything could have been possible. But as soon as we start to measure on the system, a value is assigned to it. The wave function collapses, and only one specific scenario becomes possible. This means that when we do detect a particle, we then know where it is. And the probability of finding it in those other places becomes 0. Any other possibility just So with that said, Larry could certainly be doing this to do all of that work at once, but he'd also have to worry about being detected, as if he was seen doing any one of his jobs, all of his other selves would disappear. And what's insane about this is that I have evidence that this has actually happened. Think back to the episode The Menu, and that clip I mentioned where Larry is threatened by the Watterson boys. In that clip, he's tied up to a chair, and as soon as he tells the guys about the challenge of hitting every Joyful Burger location in Elmore in an hour, they rush off as fast as they can, without untying him first. Yet, who do we see at the Joyful Burger? Gladly handing Richard his prized meal mere minutes later? That's right, Larry. It's my humble theory that the Larry who was tied to the chair poofed out of existence each time the boys arrived at a different location, where the next Larry would then pick up, and then the next one would appear with the last one vanishing, over and over again. So, I believe that settles it. Larry has the power of quantum superpositioning. He simply exists at all of these locations at once, and each time someone enters a location, he simply vanishes from all other locations besides the one he's needed in. This idea also perfectly falls in line with how Larry's schedule is portrayed in the schooling. First off, how the hell else are you gonna fit this timetable into your schedule without a little quantum manipulation? It also explains why the boys are able to go about doing all of Larry's jobs, but not all at once, with the two hopping around from workplace to workplace in seemingly impossible fashion, all in 5 minutes. How is Larry doing this? Why do I care? I don't know. Though I will pose this theory. In the episode The Nobody, whilst Gumball is describing potential personalities Rob could have, he describes a bunch of Larry's jobs positions. And as he does so, Larry walks by the group multiple times. So perhaps he found a workaround to the whole vanishing issue. Honestly, that's a scary thought. But okay, let's focus. Back to the question at hand. How much does he make? Remember how earlier I said that Larry had at least 36 different jobs? Different job doesn't mean every job. So throughout the show, Larry is shown working at multiple different versions of the same job. Think back to Joyful Burger. How many McDonald's do you have in your local area? 1, 2 maybe? Well, Larry says that Elmore has 22 Joyful Burger franchises, and guess who works at all of them? Yep. Oh, and also, it's often shown that he delivers for pretty much every food chain he works at. So let's tally that as a separate job as well. Just think of that as 22 extra salaries right there. And on top of that, Larry is shown to not just be a cashier at many places, but also in charge of keeping things tidy when messes are made. So let's tack on janitor to pretty much every convenience store or restaurant he works at. We've got a full listing of, drumroll please, yeah, all that quantum mechanics seems pretty reasonable now, huh? No. Okay, so now we have a pretty substantial number here. All we gotta do is find the general salaries of each job yearly, add them all together, and boom. Give me like 19 hours. Okay, sorry about that, guys. We're all good here. Just got done doing all that work. Let me tell you, that's the most fun way to spend a Friday night. You know, all cozy, warm fire in the background, nice cup of apple cider, looking at Indeed statistics for how much a fishmonger makes in a year all day. My kind of party right there. Quantum mechanics were the easy part of this video for me. Motherfucker. Okay, anywho, this is my big old list of salaries that Larry has across all of his jobs. I'm not gonna read it all out though, because if I did, this video would put you to sleep. Pause the video if you want to look at it all. I encourage you to do so. Please don't make my research go to waste. So with all of those numbers combined, we have Larry's final yearly income reaching a mouth-watering height of $5,552,872 a year. And yet he still has trouble keeping his girlfriend, car, and house. Poor guy. Okay, but we're still not done.
You gotta be kidding me.
We've only found out how much Larry makes in a year. Let's calculate how much Larry has made his entire life, and then put a proper net worth to him. Just because, you know what? This guy deserves it. He works so hard for all of Elmore. We've gotta return the favor, you know? So we can assume that Larry never went to college thanks to his admittance to not staying in school in the episode The Schooling. Let's just say that Larry got done with school at age 18 and then immediately started up all his jobs. A little crazy, I know, but Larry's more than capable capable of crazy, as this video has thoroughly outlined. Now we need to figure out how old Larry is, and to do that is actually kind of easy. In the episode, The Wand, while looking at one of Richard's yearbooks, we can see the very tippy top of Larry's head, implying that he's around the same age as Richard, assuming that is him. Which, I mean, makes sense. They seem to know each other pretty well, considering the whole Lazy Larry saga in the summer of '83.
Lazy Larry, huh?
But okay, Richard Watterson is 38 according to the Gumball Wiki. So that means Larry has been hard at work for 20 years. And so, with a few final calculations, Larry has $111,057,440 to his name, hypothetically. As we learn that every time the Wattersons wreck the town, the repair costs come out of his pocket. Whoops. And that is how much Larry Needlemeyer makes, and just how he does it. Hopefully you did all enjoy, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, leave a like, subscribe, and head down to the comments and give me some ideas. I'd love to hear them. Anywho, I'm gonna go take a much-deserved nap. Good night, everybody!